I really am excited to read this book. Hey cake sniffers, and welcome back to my channel. I have a huge library book haul for you today. I went to the library and picked up some holds, and then I also picked up a few things that I just wanted to get. I also have some audiobooks that I have on hold and potentially some ebooks. I'm going to check all my holds that have come in. Whenever I order books, I usually try to order them in multiple formats depending on the availability. And sometimes that's just because digitally on Libby, sometimes it'll say maybe 6 weeks, but then it'll come in really quickly. Sometimes I get things in multiple formats just so that I can hybrid read them. Like maybe I have time to read physically some books, but then I'll use the audio to, get through washing dishes or doing diaper laundry or something like that. The first book I have is Cassandra in Reverse, and I'm really excited about this. I think I was watching Gabby's channel, and she started talking about this book, and she said time travel, and time travel is one of those things that I really like. For example, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, loved that. The Time Traveler's Wife, love that. Even in movies about time, I love that movie. So anything that has to do with time travel, I'm for it. Also, I have been a fan of lots of the Reese Witherspoon book club books. Little Fires Everywhere, Where the Crawdads Sing, Wrong Place, Wrong Time. I haven't been steered wrong so far, but I also haven't read them all, so we'll see. This book, Cassandra in Reverse, I don't even know how the time travel works, but it says, she's just been dumped, she's just been fired, her local cafe runs out of her banana muffins. Then something truly unexpected happened. She discovers that she can go back and change the past. I think I'm really going to be a huge fan of this one. The Book Eaters. This one I am really excited about. This one I got in audio format, and I also just got it in physical format. The Book Eaters just sounds super exciting to me because it's about when people eat books, that is their food, and it's kind of like how they feel. So if they're reading like a happy, joyous book, it's going to like taste good, and if it's like a bad book, it's going to taste bad. Out of the Yorkshire moors lives a secret line of people for whom books are food and who retain all of the book's content after eating it. To them, spy novels are a peppery snack, romance novels are sweet and delicious, eating a map can help them remember destinations, that would be super useful, and children, when they misbehave, are forced to eat dry, musty pages from dictionaries. That sounds terrible. That's like making a kid eat, I don't know, like old apricots or something when they're in trouble, which would kind of be abuse if you ask me. Devon is part of the family, an old and reclusive clan of book eaters. Her brothers grew up feasting on stories of valor and adventure, and Devon, like all book eater women, was raised on a carefully curated diet of fairy tales and cautionary stories. But real life doesn't always come with happy endings, as Devon learns when her son is born with a rare and darker kind of hunger, not for books, but for human minds. Oh my gosh, I did not finish reading the description here before I decided I was gonna pick it up. I'm really excited about this one. This might be one of the first ones that I read. That sounds super interesting. And also like the diet, words. The concept that they say that women and men are fed different things. I did not read that in the description. I only read that first little paragraph before I put it on hold. I'm really hoping that this book lives up because it sounds like it's just an interesting concept, but it's going to be able to talk a lot about the world like now, how women and men are treated differently, especially like that they're specifically giving them different diets. I wonder if they see it as different. It's kind of like when we do things different with like little boys and little girls already from the start. That's so interesting. The Girls in the Garden. I got this because I don't think I've actually read it. I can't remember if I got it on audio also. I might have. But I really like Lisa Jewell. When I was in just like a slump in life a few years back and I started picking up books again, I started with a lot of Lisa Jewell. And from what I can understand from what I've seen on Booktube, she's a little bit hit or miss with people. But I really like Lisa Jewell books. I don't think that the twist endings are predictable to me. And I think maybe if I read more thrillers, they would be. That's what I hear a lot of people say. But to me, they're just a good time. I can't usually figure out what's going to happen. It reminds me a lot of my favorite author, Jodi Picoult, and how at the end of her books there's always a twist. But I try not to figure out what the twist is going to be in those books, and I do the same with Lisa Jewell. I try not to figure out at all what's going to happen because I want to be surprised by the twist. And if I did read it, I don't remember it. That means I'm probably going to just get to experience it all over again. Imagine that you live on a picturesque communal garden square, an oasis in urban London, where your children run free, in and out of other people's houses. Your neighbors have been living here for generations, and you trust them implicitly. You think your children are safe, but are they really? When a father's schizophrenic break ends in tragedy, Claire must abscond with her two daughters, Grace and Pip, leaving their old home behind. Okay, I'm not going to read anymore because I don't want to spoil it for myself. But I think I remember, this might have been another one that I got from watching Gabby's videos. If I remember correctly, this is the one where all the houses kind of look in on the same corridor and a murder happens in that corridor, like in almost like a park. I could be wrong though. If that's the book that I'm thinking of and that's what this is, then something happens in that corridor and everyone's thinking, well, I saw, you know, we all look into the corridor, why don't we know what happened? And at first I thought it was Watching You. I thought it was the same book. I thought this book, when being described, was that book, because there's a lot going on in like the alleyways in that book and people looking out the front, but it's not the same as all these houses looking in on a corridor. It kind of reminds me of when I didn't live on military housing. Well, actually I have. But when I was younger, we knew someone who lived on military housing and we would visit. And I remember there were always parks in the center and people would look in at those parks. So it's almost like we're all watching the children. And for me, really, I just picked this up because Lisa Jewell's a good time for me. The next one that I got was Split Tooth. And this one, I know for sure by 99% sure, maybe 98% sure, that I picked this up because I saw Kayla reading this one. And it sounded like an interesting book. I just remember thinking this sounded like a good time, and I don't remember what it's about, so let's find out together. From the internationally acclaimed Inuit throat singer who has dazzled and enthralled the world with music it had never heard before, a fierce, tender, heartbreaking story unlike anything you've ever read. Fact can be as strange as fiction. It can also be as dark, as violent, as rapturous. In the end, there may be no difference between them. A girl grows up. She knows joy and friendship and parents' love. She knows the ravages of alcohol and violence at the hands of those she should be able to trust. When she becomes pregnant, she must navigate all of this. Okay, I don't want to read anymore because I don't want... Sometimes too much is given away here. But so it sounds like she has like a really good life connected with like the animal world, and then she's going to be pregnant and there's going to be like problems that happen. So I just love that the book is red. Like, can we enjoy that? Like white with like red on the inside. Great, enjoy. There's a little wolf here. So Split Tooth, I am looking forward to reading this, and I think that the red binding is just like so cute. So the next physical books I got when I went to pick up my holds, and I just was wandering the stacks. So I found a few things there. The first one was, If You See Me, Don't Say Hi. Right? How rude. If You See Me, Don't Say Hi, which made me think of this other book that I have behind me. Where is it? If You Lived Here, I'd Know Your Name. This is one of my favorite books. It just makes me feel good. So just a quick little, if you haven't read this and you like Alaska and you like just cute little stories of people living their lives. If You See Me, Don't Say Hi. And I think it's an anthology. In 11 sharp, surprising stories, Neil Patel gives voice to our most deeply held stereotypes and then slowly undermines them. Love that. Because one thing I'm always trying to connect with myself is, where are my biases and how am I treating people differently, or am I treating people differently based on stereotypes that I have. We all hold stereotypes. I think it's human nature, but I want to break free of the ones that I have and just challenge any stereotypes that I have. And so I appreciate that this is going to be, I think it said 11 stories. Yeah, 11 sharp, surprising stories. His characters, almost all of whom are first-generation Indian American, subvert our expectations that they will sit quietly by. I'm curious if all the stories in here are going to be about first-generation Indian Americans, or if there's going to be other cultures that we might hold unknown biases or stereotypes about. The next book that I saw was The Piano Tuner, and I will say part of why I picked it was because it was a smaller book and some of the other books were larger, and I'm hoping to be able to read these before they're due. Sometimes picking up a few smaller books helps you get through all of them before they're due. But this one I was excited because it was written from like a male voice, which was exciting. It says, a widower grieving for his young wife, a piano tuner concealing a lifetime of secrets, an out-of-tune Steinway piano, a journey of self-discovery across time and continents from a dark apartment in Taipei's red light district to snow-clad New York. And I don't want to read any more, and it's also a translated work. So I like reading translated work just because it helps introduce me to like other cultures that I may not know about. I do wonder though, it says it's about a widower, and I wonder if the author was also a widower or if that's like a voice they're writing from. Not everybody lives the same way. I'll be honest, I picked this one up literally because of the title. It's like, yes, that's true. I experienced that. I love that. And I hope that they're going to, within this book, speak about that truth. Like, not everybody lives the same way. Written by Jean-Paul Dubois. And I also liked, I remember that this was set in Canada, I believe. Paul Hansen is in prison. He's been in the prison on the outskirts of Montreal for a couple of years now, sharing a cell with a murderous Hell's Angel who often reminds Paul that he could kill him at any moment. What did Paul do to end up there, and why does he jeopardize his life and release by refusing to show remorse? That's interesting. Like, should he feel remorse? What did he do? What I wonder with this book is Does he need to show remorse because that says that he did it, whatever it is? Or does he not need to show remorse because he didn't do it, whatever it is? Or would showing remorse, even though he didn't do it, whatever it is, would that get him out anyway, even though he didn't do it? Would that get him, out and able to live his life again? What does it mean to plead guilty? It's also, I'm curious, because this is set in Canada. Canada and the United States are very similar in many ways. They're also very different in many ways. So I'm curious how their correctional system is the same as the United States, because we notoriously have not a very good correctional system. So I'm curious, is Canada's similar or different, and will I pick up any nuance or information about that through reading this book? Going straight from that to this book I am very excited to read about. It is about, tangentially, the correctional system in the United States, because it's about a cop. It says, My Fight to Change Policing in America. So this is a biography written by Edwin Raymond, An Inconvenient Cop, My Fight to Change Policing in America, Edwin Raymond with John Sternfeld. From the highest-ranking whistleblower in NYPD history, a gripping insider look at the complexities of modern policing and the urgent need for reform. So listen, we've all seen a good Law & Order episode. We've all seen SVU. Many of us love Olivia Benson. If my husband would let me and we had a girl, I'd want to name her after Olivia Benson. But I think we can all attest that the policing that we see on Law & Order is not the same as the real policing that we see in real life every day. We have some complexities, and I think recent years Law & Order SVU has been attempting to show some of those issues within the episodes. But at the end of the day, they want us to love Olivia Benson and the other characters on the show who are themselves police. So it's often under the guise of there might be some issues within the policing system itself, but none of our characters and none of our actors are really part of that. Every now and then some of them have some issues, but for the most part, we're supposed to love the characters. This says that this guy's a whistleblower in the United States and he wants to change policing in America. I am really curious what he whistleblew, because I actually don't know anything about him. So, or what was he whistleblowing about? Did it bring change? My fight to change policing in America, did it bring change? I'm really curious. So this I'm excited to read about. I'm hoping that this is him on the cover, because, that's just a cool cover. And I do love that these are the colors that they chose, because if you know anything about the Black diaspora, black usually represents the people. Green represents the lushness of the African continent and hope for the future. Red often represents blood, like the blood shed to get freedom for all people in the Black diaspora in different parts. Yellow represents optimism, justice, and equality. Since it's policing, it would have been really easy to choose blue, or the NYPD, how the police would say back the blue. But this is very, I'm assuming, intentional that these were the colors chosen for this book. And so I just appreciate that. The next book that I picked up is called Umami, and I picked this one up specifically because it's about Mexico. My husband is Mexican, he grew up in Mexico, and therefore my son is also Mexican. Well, he's American, Mexican-American, his dad's Mexican. It started with drowning. Deep in the heart of Mexico City, where 5 houses cluster around a sun-drenched courtyard, lives Ana, a precocious 12-year-old still coming to terms with the mysterious death of her little sister years ago. Over the rainy, smoggy summer, she decides to plant a vegetable garden in the courtyard, and as she digs the ground and plants her seeds, her neighbors in turn delve into their past. As the ripple effects of grief, childlessness, illness, and displacement saturate their stories, secrets seep out, and questions emerge. Who was my wife? Why did my mom leave? Can I turn back the clock? And how could a girl who knew how to swim drown? Part of why I picked up this book is because it's set in Mexico, and I believe Mexico City. And so I just wanted to get a feel for the culture. I'm hoping that there's a lot of description of the actual city, the streets, the sounds, the smells, life in Mexico. That's what I'm hoping to get out of this book. I also think that the story sounds interesting, but I'm hoping there's some good descriptions just of life in Mexico. Sophie Hughes translated this. Oh, interesting. So this book was originally written in Spanish, I believe. It doesn't say translated on the cover. See, it just says Leila Jufresa. It doesn't say translated on the front. What was it translated? Oh, translated by Sophie Hughes. But from what language? Oh yeah, here. Originally published in Spanish as Umami. Look at this cute little drawing. The last book I physically got at the library was called The Heartbroken Inn. It is a fictional book by James Meek. The award-winning author of international bestseller The People's Act of Love comes a rich and intricate novel about everything that matters to us now. children, celebrity, secrets, and shame. The quest for youth, loyalty, and betrayal, falls from grace, acts of terror, and the wonderful, terrible inescapability of family. Why did I pick this up? His sister Beck is getting closer and closer to a vaccine for malaria, when she's not in Tanzania harvesting field samples. That's why I picked it up, because it had another place in it. It had Tanzania. I just like reading books that have other places. I used to, oh, that might be my family. I used to travel a lot more than I do now, and so now I pretty much can only travel through books, and I'm hoping that we spend a lot of time with his sister in Tanzania. This book I'm not actually sure I'll get to. I always get more books than I can get to, and this one I'm not sure if I will. I'll at least get the first chapter read and see if I need to pick it back up and put it on my to be read, or, you know, maybe I'll get to it if I get a lot of time to read. The thing is, I don't have a lot of time to read physical books right now, and I'm spending most of that time that I am reading physical books, reading books in Spanish, so I don't know how much time I'll have to get to the English books, because right now I have a 4-month-old baby, and so I spend my days taking care of him, and it just doesn't leave me a lot of time to sit down and hold a book and read it. I am doing a lot of audiobooks right now. I'm just not getting a lot of time to read physical books, especially in English, since that's not my focus. I don't know if you can hear my husband singing. If you can, I need to pause because I don't want to put him in the video without his permission. I did not ask him if he wants his voice in the video. He knows I'm filming, he just probably doesn't know that my camera and my mic pick up a lot of sounds. I also did pick up some new audiobooks that I'm going to go through. So there are a few books that I picked up for a video that I'm thinking about doing. I didn't pick them up for the video, I picked them up ahead of time and then decided it would be a good video. But I picked up some books in Spanish, and I need to choose which ones I'm going to actually read. So I got Modern Love. That's an anthology of some different New York Times articles from the Modern Love, what would you call that, section. I just think that those would be like cute stories. Newspapers are often written at lower levels, like somewhere between like 3rd grade and 8th grade level. I think I'll be able to understand. Is that my baby? So I picked up a few books in Spanish because I am trying to find a book that I can read in Spanish that is a little bit higher than my level so that I can pick up on a few new words, but not too high that I don't understand. So some of those books I got were Modern Love. It was originally in English, it's translated to Spanish. Another one that I got was Project Hail Mary, but in Spanish. It's also translated, originally written in English, translated to Spanish. For that same reason, I want to see if I can understand that book in Spanish. I don't actually know what it's about. It's something that my husband asked me to read. I'll go more into that in the vlog. I know it has something to do with space, which is like his kind of book. He also had me read Before the Murder Bots, which is also kind of like, it's not really space. It's like futuristic kind of thing. But he's into like books about space. So every now and then I'll read like books about space. I also got Crazy Rich Asians, but written in Spanish. Same thing. I've seen the movie, so it's about a guy. He's like super mega wealthy, rich, and he is engaged to this girl who doesn't know that. And they go back to, I think, Singapore to visit his family. And his mom does not approve of the relationship. I don't know how much the book and the movie are the same, but that's on my list of books to read in Spanish. And I picked it because since I've seen the movie, I thought it might help when I'm reading it that I kind of already know what's going on. That might help me with picking up the Vanishing Half. That was one that I got. Vanishing Half. Let's look at what that one was about. I know it had something to do with two girls who are sisters who are black and white, or maybe they have black parents and a black parent and a white parent, which is what I have. And they choose to live differently. I think maybe one of them can pass for white and then chooses to do so, and then one of them passes for black. Let's see when this book is set. They're twin sisters. Twin sisters will always be identical, but after growing up together in a small southern black community and running away at age 16, it's not just the shape of their daily lives that is different as adults, it's everything. Their families, their communities, their racial identities. Many years later, one sister lives with her black daughter in the same southern town she once tried to escape. The other secretly passes for white, and her white husband knows nothing about her past. Now the interesting thing is they say secretly passes for white, and I am curious, does it say that these girls are black? I want to know, because right there is something that I've dealt with a lot, and black people deal with a lot, but anyone who's like got some partial, because it says passes as white, but it doesn't say passes as black. So is she fully black and then passes as white? Because, for example, I'm half and half, a little halfy. My mom is white, my dad is black. That's my makeup of genetics. And if you were to talk about me passing, the one that you would say is passing as white, according to this, but wouldn't you also then say passing as black? If you have any black in you, you just are black. With white, it's just interesting because as soon as you put anything in with white, you're no longer white. I don't know. Like, people would say that I'm black. Not all people, but some people would say that I'm black. But most people don't say that I'm white. You either say that I'm black or you say that I'm mixed. I did get the Book Eaters as audio because I didn't know which one would come in first and which one I'll have time for first. Oh, I picked up Cassandra in Reverse on audio also because that one I was just so excited to read that I wanted to make sure that I got it in whichever form it came in first. Oh, I also got Stiff. Stiff is a book about cadavers and it's supposed to be a comedy. This one I saw on the front of my Goodreads. It was recommended to me from, I guess, I don't know how Goodreads decides that you'll be interested in something, but it's supposed to be a comedy about what happens to cadavers, you know, just in life, like historically. So that one I think is interesting. I don't know how much new information there will be because, not that I've read a lot about cadavers, but I think over time you hear things about cadavers, about life, about what happens to bodies after death. It's going to go into the history, so historically what was happening with bodies, like maybe it's going to talk about body snatching. I'm sure there was some of that. What's happening present day with cadavers. I'm curious if it's going to get into anything with the funeral industry because I know that there are some things that are a bit controversial in the funeral industry. I like to dive deep into different nonfiction. It's one of my favorite books that I need to find again that I've looked for. My friend recommended it to me. It was about the history of the New York City garbage pickup system. That book was really good. If I can find it again, I'll put it up here. I recommend this book right here. It was really good. I learned a lot and actually would like to reread it because I forgot some of the things, but I just remember. Who is Maud Dixon? I picked up Who is Maud Dixon because I believe Gabby recommended it in her vlog and it was super highly rated. I cannot remember why I picked it up. It just sounded like a good time when she was describing it. And I like that there's a mystery of who is this person? I know it had to do with an author who nobody knew who she was. And there was a girl who works somehow in publishing and I think she's going to try and figure out who Maud Dixon is. All right, well, thank you for coming along for my first haul. Hopefully I'm able to get through all of these books before they're due back at the library. You should be able to see some of them in an upcoming vlog or book wrap up if I get to them. Let me know down below if you've read any of these and which ones are your favorite. Which ones should I definitely not skip over? And which ones could I actually just send back to the library without reading? Bye, cake sniffers.